Hello, welcome to our show. My name is Janara Iman. I'm a clinical nutritionist. I have a practice in San Rafael. And the name of our show is Chronic Ailments and Scientific Nutrition. What we like to do is take lab and science-based analysis and treat naturally to help the body heal itself. So we have natural solutions based on lab analysis. One of the things that is a goal for natural medicine is prevention and repair, and it's really important to me. And so we use science combined with natural medicines to help the body heal itself by lab, nutrition, and supplement. So diet is very important, but testing is very important so that we also know exactly what nutritional supplements you need. Otherwise, you're on the internet, you're having a guessing game, you're going to the health food store, you're reading a flyer. That looks good, but it may not be what you need. So this is important. And we're going to talk about cholesterol today, another very important topic. Cutting through the confusion of cholesterol. It's nature's Band-Aid gone wrong sometimes. Is it our villain or is it our hero? So we want to give you some ideas for answers for a global epidemic. In my office, I see a lot of people come in. They all have blood work, a lot of times from somewhere else. Sometimes I look at the person and I see somebody who's 20 pounds overweight, and this overweight person has perfect cholesterol scores, perfect triglyceride scores. And another person will come in and they'll eat a low-fat, healthy diet full of whole grains, vegetables and fruits, and they'll have a high glucose and their cholesterol scores will be really high, over 200, and we say why. So what is it about the human body and how does it utilize cholesterol? So we want to answer these things and we want to fix these things, and one of the things our philosophy follows is East meets West. We want to combine herbs, nutritional supplements, and diet and get it to the cellular level and find out what's wrong with science, comprehensive lab tests with nutritional recommendations to start to heal the cell. So we start by fixing the cell, and restoring the natural cellular function gives the body what it needs to heal itself. So that's really important, and I emphasize it in the beginning a lot. So bear with me here. Here's some heart-to-heart facts. And our heart, this is a picture of the human heart, and it's a pump of the complex circulatory system. It carries fluids, gases like oxygen, carbon dioxide, solids such as immune cells and red blood cells, and nutrition all over the body. It's the human highway, and all of these veins and arteries work best when it's open. It's just like being in a traffic jam on the highway. If you're stuck in a lane and you can't get down the lane, you can't get where you're going very fast, and that happens in the heart. It's pretty much a functional organ that never sleeps. It's awake and it's working even when you're sleeping, and it's important that it's working well. So here's some cholesterol facts that we're going to involve our talk in today. First of all, cholesterol builds and maintains cell membranes. It's a good thing. It's essential for determining which molecules pass in and out of the cell wall. I'm going to show you a picture of that later and what inflammation does. It's involved in the production of sex hormones, male and female. It's essential for the production of adrenal hormones, and that's cortisol, corticosterone, etc., aldosterone, and it aids in the production of bile. Very important, because bile is what digests fats. So you can see a connection happening there. It converts sunshine into vitamin D. A lot of people didn't realize that about cholesterol. Important for the metabolism of fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K. Very important. And it insulates nerve fibers. We can't live without it. Cholesterol is a solid, waxy substance that's classed as a lipid. It's manufactured by the body in the liver from lipids. So it is so important to the integrity of the tissues that every cell contains it in its outer layer. Because it's so important, your liver routinely makes about 300 to 500 milligrams per day from the intake of food, and 60% of all cholesterol in the blood is produced in the liver, not in your foods, which is something that a lot of people don't realize. So diets high in natural fat have been proven not to raise cholesterol levels per se. Multiple studies have been done on many, many indigenous tribes, the Inuits. We talk about the Maasai here, which is it is a tribe of cattle herders in Africa, and they subsist mostly on a high-fat diet of meat and dairy and milk and blood. And they typically have pristine cholesterol. So here we go. Why is that? Why would they have perfect cholesterol eating a high-fat diet? Well, they don't have any inflammation, for one. So we'll talk about that later, too. Cholesterol has two main carriers, LDL and HDL, which bind with it so it can travel through the bloodstream. Its carrier pigeons are what we're going to talk about here. Cholesterol is carried in the blood by three types of molecules, actually called lipid proteins. LDL, we know about it. We hear about LDL constantly. And it is very, very, very much the bad rap. Because, as we just talked about, hormones are made in the body from cholesterol, and LDL is the cholesterol that makes those hormones. But LDL carries cholesterol from the liver to the cells, but too much of it can cause an increase of arterial disease. But most human blood contains about 70%. HDL is high-density lipid protein, and it takes the cholesterol from the cells back to the liver, where it can either be broken down or whether it can be eliminated from the body as waste. So it has the opposite effect of the LDL, and we call that the good cholesterol. You've all heard that. And it is. It's nature's Band-Aid. So how does all this go wrong? This is what we're talking about here. So triglycerides. Triglycerides are from fat and oils, and here's a little picture. We've got our carrier pigeons over here, and we've got our fat and oils here, because this is how we get triglycerides, from oil and from fats in our diet. And they're found in our food, and they're also made in our body from other things like sugars. And so this is what happens when we start to get into an inflammatory response. We get the combination of bad fats and sugars, and then boom, we have an LDL issue. Namely, atherosclerosis is one. So here I have this nice little picture that is from the PubMed Health. And you can go online and you can look at this to get a closer look. But here is what we don't want to see happen in the cells. Atherosclerosis is the disease of the arteries in which the fatty material and plaques are deposited on the wall of the artery, and it results in a narrowing of that arterial highway that we were talking about, the arterial lumen. And eventually it impairs the blood flow. And we saw in that picture of the heart how important it is for the blood to be always flowing into the heart and back out and into the lungs. So 3 problems happen, and that's basically based on inflammation. Cellular inflammation is a huge key. And we have 3 ways mainly that it's caused. And that's when nutrients can't get in and out of the cells for cellular energy, when toxins can't get out, which triggers the gene susceptibility and interferes with cell communication and function, and the receptors on the membrane are blunted and they can't hear the message, okay, of the hormones. Hormones are messengers, and they try to get in and out of the cells to cause the cell to do its job. So here, when you're looking at a cell, this is the double lipid layers stretched out of a cell. And every cell wall is made of a lipid. And so it has these little gateways in which nutrients and information can come in and out. And when that doesn't happen, we don't make ATP for energy. We don't have the glutathione for detoxification. And we have a lot of free radical damage that happens. Thus, we have inflammation. And inflammation is the key to 80% of all disease that we know now from clinical studies. So here's some solutions for cellular inflammation that are not Band-Aids, but it's how we can prevent inflammation and fix it. Cellular healing diet. So we need to increase the good fats, which we're going to talk about in a minute, reduce the fats that are harmful, and we're going to cut out sugar and glucose. to a minimum degree, because it's that combination of bad fats and sugar that creates the too much LDL cholesterol, and then too much damage happens to the cell walls, and then we have this spattering of this buildup of cholesterol like a Band-Aid, and pretty soon too much of that narrows the walls, like we were saying, and we can't keep our highway free. True cellular detox is we remove the cause of the inflammation, and that's how we assist to healing. So yes, we might need medications such as statins at first, but the idea is let's change our lifestyle. Let's go to the core. Let's find out how we got there in the first place, and then let's go for that kind of healing. So symptoms of cardio stress that you might not realize can look like symptoms of other types of diseases or other kinds of stress in the body. Cold hands and feet, or that feeling of pins and needles, leg cramping when you're walking, a burning or tingling feeling in the hands and feet, this lack of circulation there in the small veins and arteries, discoloration in the fingers and toes, that again is lack of circulation, little spider veins, slurred speech, poor concentration, there's not enough blood flow to the brain, and slow healing of superficial wounds would also be an indication of cardiac stress. So what goes wrong? As we were talking about, it's usually inflammation. So if the natural dietary fats don't increase bad cholesterol, then what does? Okay, we were just talking about it. The studies show that high cholesterol is an inflammatory response. And that's why my two patients sitting in the office, the one who eats the low-fat, high-grain vegetable diet versus the other person sitting there with 20 pounds overweight, can have completely different cholesterol scores just based on what they eat, not based on how much they weigh. So bad fats, sugars, and toxins are the biggest culprits. And much to a lot of people's chagrin, this beautiful little plate of whole grains and wheat are part of the sugars. These are high glycemic, they turn to sugar very quickly in the blood, and many of them are gluten-based, which causes inflammation. And like we were saying, inflammation is one of the things that goes wrong. Toxins. We don't even have to tell you that this is sugar. This is toxins, and this is what we feed our kids. There's been studies done that the first thing that comes out of a child's mouth at 2.5 years old in a grocery store is begging their mother for some kind of sugared cereal, because there's so much media hype that sells our kids on these things, and they see it in their cartoons, it's in their movies, these little breakfast cereals. They're full of chemicals, artificial colors, artificial flavors, and so many of the people that I see now grew up on this stuff and in their 30s still eat it for breakfast. So we got to look at all this. Another form of toxins is the good old H2O water. In the plastic bottle itself, it is a toxic drink, because especially if it warms up, if you reuse that plastic bottle, you get those PCPs. We now know that the bisphenol in the plastic bottles is a big no-no, but many of us spent years jogging down the road drinking out of them. So we've got to look at what causes inflammation from a deeper level. So which is better? Nature's foods or man-made foods? Here's another misnomer. What is myth and what is fact? Okay, here we have the egg. It is nature's food. It's made by God. And then we have man-made foods. We have margarine and we have canola oil. Most people I know eat canola oil, and this happens to be an organic one. Why isn't it good, and why does it cause inflammation? Well, the trans fat occurs as a result of the processing of this oil from a little seed called rapeseed. In order to get that oil out of that seed, it has to be processed at a really high temperature. And canola oil is really high in omega-3s. However, by the time it gets onto your plate, it's no longer the case. That heat ruins that quality of the omega-3s. They go rancid. It begins to have a funny smell. So what happens is that off smell from processing, the rancid odor, it goes through a deodorization process. So some of those omega-3 fatty acids are converted to trans fats in the process. Everybody fries with this, everybody cooks with this. You're eating trans fats and you think you're actually doing something for health, when actually there's a little bit of deceit going on in there. So we're looking back at the egg here and we say, look at this beautiful little yolk in the center. The yolk of the egg has 8 times the amount of lecithin as cholesterol. And lecithin is nature's natural emulsifier. So nature knew what to do. It knew how to emulsify that cholesterol in the egg. And so we now know that it's okay to have a little bit of eggs in our diet. The worst thing, though, is to think that eating the whole grain muffin that has the egg in it is better for you than the egg. Why? Because the combination of fats and sugars, and that muffin is going to turn to sugar pretty quickly in your body, contributes to the LDL cholesterol, thus the inflammation, like we were talking about. But here we have this nice little layer of protein around a perfect little package that also knows how to emulsify its cholesterol. As long as we're not combining it with sugars, we're in the ballpark. So the biggest fatal attraction in our life is sugar. Sugar is the highest cause of inflammation, and it's the biggest culprit. And especially when it's in the form of wheat, really, really refined sugars and wheat. And even worse when it's combined with trans fats, like we have in our movie food and the stuff that we feed our kids. We have children, more and more and more, who are obese because we've got this combination of bad fats and sugar, and this is what we're feeding them. So we got to look at this. We've got to look at how we can prevent this. And one of the ways we can really see what's going on in the body is preventive lab testing. And that's what we like to do. You've probably seen this chart before because some of my colleagues use the same form of testing as I do. This is a diagram that tells you why you may not feel good. If you have inflammation, you're not quite feeling right, but all your blood work looks good. What's wrong? Why don't I feel good? Because your standard blood tests are based on the ranges of normal from sick people who go in to have their blood checked because they don't feel good. So what we like to do is we like to test and get results based on healthy people's lab results, so that instead of being in functional low or functional high ranges that sometimes are almost tipping into the abnormal lows and highs on a test, you are actually looking at healthy ranges, and then you can say, uh-oh, if I'm tipping into these functional high and lows, I'll be able to tell. So these are reasons why you might not feel good when your blood work says that you look pretty good. So this is comprehensive lab analysis based on blood, hair, urine, and that equals you. It gives us a really good biological picture of who you really are. And it's a list of 52 different tests. And so this is a preventative type test. Preventive lab testing is a good way to go because we can see actually what's going wrong, but we can also see where you're going off a little bit, and we can prevent that from getting worse. So here, I'll give you a little sample of this person came into the office and they were tested and they had a lot of colors in their first test. This is the dividing marker between the first and the second, or first and second. So red on this test equals we better deal with this. This is something that we need to worry about. Yellow is we're starting to have a problem, and this is how we look at prevention. Blue is code blue. We've got to deal with this immediately. So we're able, with getting all of these tests done at once and combining it with hair and urine, tackle the problems that start to cause the inflammation and that create the disease and turn backwards through natural medicines, the healing process of the body by giving it what it needs to heal itself. So the second time they came in and they were tested after they took their nutritional supplements, their nutraceuticals, their herbs, whatever was indicated for what was going on, and maybe a lifestyle change in diet, we see a great improvement. We see lots of white. White is perfect. And we see lots of things that have gone from red into the yellow, some into perfection, those high values of healthy people. And this is what we like to see. This is what we want to do, and this is why we think this is a very good way to work with the person, because we can prevent disease. Part of the testing is hair analysis, and that's really important too, because we were just talking about how toxins affect our health and increase inflammation in the body. And when we get the hair analysis back, it's divided into two sections. The top section shows all of the toxins that come out of the hair follicle from the blood, and we can read it and we can see it. We want to see everything sort of in a middle range. We don't want to see everything in a high range. We want to see things moving to the left. Okay, so we can see that there's some nice lows in there, but there's also some issues here that we have to work with, which we now know what they are. And down here, we want to see things in the middle range. So we don't want to see anything that's too low or too high, because down here is your minerals. And some of these minerals are very, very important for cellular function. So it's a two-tiered test. We see the toxins, and then we see your mineral levels, and we can get a pretty good picture of what's causing inflammation or what's lacking. And how we do that is because every vein and artery is hooked to a hair follicle. So hair follicles all show or contain trace amounts of chemicals found in the body because they're released through the hair. And so one of the things that we want to do is to make sure that we get a clear test. Cellular inflammation, I've been saying information, and I mean inflammation, is the true underlying cause, as we said, of 80 to 90% of medical conditions. So I really like this test. It's called the Medioxy test. It's simple to do. It's a simple urine test that takes 10 minutes. It's done right in the office. It's very inexpensive, and it shows exactly how much oxidation or free radical damage is going on in the cell by testing for urinary malinaldehyde, which is a byproduct of cellular lipid peroxidation and free radical damage. That's a mouthful, but that's all about how we're talking about rancid fats and trans fats and 50 times more accurate than a blood test in determining if you're aging prematurely. So we really like to see this. It's fast, it's easy, and it can be repeated many times. So to start your cardiovascular healing, you will get your lab work, and we'll look at that, and we'll get many ways of looking at how to start your healing program. And one of them is that based on many, many tests over time in the computer, we get a really good recommendation of what to do and what you need. So we're not guessing. We're not making a stab and saying, oh, I think this supplement works for that and that supplement works for this. We're looking at complete lab analysis, and a computer analyzes everything, so there's no human error. And based on several 1,000 tests and results, you get recommendations that are securely diagnosed for exactly what you need. Okay, so tests show that key natural specific products work at a cellular level, and these are some of the ones I like to work with. These happen to be systemic formulas. They are whole food, whole herb based. I like that because they're what nature starts with in your healing. We like nature's cures, vitamins, minerals, dietary changes. Your individual comprehensive lab testing can tell you where to start your healing by giving us those results based on the computer printouts and based on your interview. And we're not guessing. We're not going to the health food store and saying, I think I need this vitamin. We're saying, okay, we have actual lab results showing what you need, and that's good. That's how medicine works. That's how doctors prescribe medicine. They base it on your lab work. We're doing this now with nutrition. It's state of the art, and that's how we heal. So Back to the labs. Lab testing results based on the averages of thousands of healthy people rather than averages of sick people is very important. We can get a good biochemical picture of exactly where you're at. We can catch inflammation before it becomes too damaging, and we can turn disease markers back to their normal state. And we know now with genetics that we all have a predisposition to certain things based on our heritage. But we don't have to turn those gene markers on. We can keep them off, or we can turn them back off by how we feed the body, what it needs at a cellular level. So the resulting nutritional recommendations and the protocols are customized for you based on your individual test scores. So by using computer analysis, there's no guessing. Nothing's missed. So that's the end of our show today. I'd like to give special thanks to the crew of this show. And I mentioned before, I have a practice in San Rafael. My name is Janara Iman. My phone number is 415-497-5202. My show airs Saturdays on Channel 26 at 2:30. And I have a website, is vitalnaturalhealthsolutions.com. And I have a YouTube channel, and I upload these shows after a period of time onto the YouTube channel for your benefit so that you can go rewatch them again if you haven't recorded the show. So the YouTube channel is Janara Iman CNBA, that's my name, run together, CNBA, and you can go to YouTube and you can pull it up and you can rewatch these shows. And I invite you to do that. I invite you to think about how to improve your health and your lifestyle. Be well, take care, and be in good health. Thank you very much.